My name is Fred LePlat, which I'm social resistance I chaired earlier this morning. So we've got just for everybody to sort of get into, sit down for Steve to catch his breath and mop his brow and everything. He's been to another meeting. So we've got Steve Hall from Manchester. I'm not quite sure which campaign he's involved in, Steve.
Frack-free Greater Manchester.
Frack-free Greater Manchester. And Eva Barker as well from Frack Off Manchester.
No, not from Frack Off Manchester.
Oh,
from RS21 Manchester.
RS21. Eva's got about 10 minutes or so, 12 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, I think I can fill 12 minutes. 10 minutes.
You've got the microphone there if you want to.
Okay, right. Oh, yes.
Papers.
Am I coming through the microphone now? Yeah. Okay. Well, I wonder how many of you have come to this meeting trying to find out what fracking is and why it's bad.
Yep.
One person, 2, 3, 4. Oh, right.
Everybody else already knows, is that right?
I was going to skip that bit. But I will try to rush through it fairly fast because I think it's more important to talk about how to fight it.
Yeah.
But let's see whether I can persuade you that we really do need to fight it. Essentially, fracking is one of several things called extreme what's it called? Extreme energy, that's it, yeah. I'm still slightly distracted. One of several extreme energy methods of getting at remaining fossil fuels. It's not enough for the fossil fuel conglomerations to have 5 times more carbon fuels that they know about to fry the Earth into an uninhabitable planet, but they want more and they plan to burn the lot. So what we know about fracking comes mostly from USA experience, where they have been, fracking has been established for 10 years or more, and where a lot of the effects that fracking companies don't want to talk about are being fairly loudly now spread, and it's quite easy to find out. Essentially, they drill a hole down to the shale rock. Shale rock is impervious. It doesn't allow liquids and gases to flow through it the way that conventional oil wells and the rock that holds conventional oil work. So that in order to free the gas that's present, you have to put down a very large amount of water down the hole. They drill vertically. When they get to the shale, they drill horizontally through the shale and pump down a mixture of water, sand, and a very large number of chemicals. The chemicals, exactly, the names of the chemicals are kept secret, but it is known that many of them are extremely dangerous to health, carcinogenic, and what have you. What they do then is they apply an enormous pulse of pressure into that water. Water is incompressible, and so the pulse becomes transmitted through the water and the sand and shatters the shale rock that the horizontal pipe is drilled through. Then the gas can flow, the sand is there to hold the cracks open, the chemicals are there for technical reasons which I'm not going to go into, but gas starts to flow up the pipe. One of the things about fracking wells is that compared with conventional wells, oil wells, the amount of gas they get out per well is actually quite small. Because shale is such an impervious rock, the fracturing of the shale is limited in extent, and the amount of gas you can get out from a single well is also limited. So what do? They move a little bit and they drill another one, and then another one and another one. so that if fracking takes off in Britain, and it's only just starting, there will be many thousands of wells, tens of thousands of wells in this country. There was one quote I saw from one of the Americans in Arkansas. Oh, isn't it? You can never find it when you want it. I'll have to paraphrase him. Here we are. Within 2 miles of where he lives, there are 14 wells. Now, what happens when the well has run dry? Some companies in America have gone bust. Other companies just go, leave it. The thing is still leaking methane into the atmosphere and will continue to do so for quite a while at rates which are not big enough to be exploited and sold. So that what happens is that the state has to pick up the cost of about $100,000 per well to cap it properly and stop this leakage. And so, as far as I know, the New York State has between 1,000 and 2,000 wells that it has to cap because they've been abandoned for one reason and another. The dangers are mostly from the fact that when they put the water down, it's very large numbers of gallons of water that go in. I've written up there 3 references to things that you can find out, because I can't dwell in detail about the technicalities and the struggle against them. So those are things which you could try looking for on the web to find out more. The main problems, of course, are the pollution of the water, because not all the water that they put down comes back up again. Probably they get out between 1/3 and half of the water they put down there. So the rest, with all its chemicals, all its pollutants, stays down there and makes its way, heaven knows where, quite often into the water table, so that there is pollution of drinking water, pollution of and pollution of air, because what does come up then has to be disposed of. And what they usually do is they put it into a great big pond and let it evaporate. Well, not some of the chemicals, of course, like hydrochloric acid, will evaporate quite nicely into the air along with the water. It isn't just a matter that the water dries off. Some of the chemicals get into the air as well, causing all sorts of health problems. So that there's water pollution, there's air pollution. There is, of course, a small fact that it's a fossil fuel, and so it contributes to climate change. In fact, methane, over the 20 or 40-year period, you'll get different answers depending on how long your test period is, because methane is a much more powerful greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide, but it is also shorter lived. And so if you calculate over a longer period, you will get a different answer to if you calculate over a shorter period. But methane is many times more powerful greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide, so it contributes to climate change very strongly. And of course everybody hears about the earthquakes because that's what the BBC picks up. I don't think they're very serious in terms of damaging your house, but they certainly can damage the piping and lead to further leakage of what shouldn't leak out into the environment. I think I've said enough, together with references for various things that I think you can find out for yourselves. Just to know, to sort of point out that fracking is a disaster for the environment and a disaster for the people who live around there. So I'm going to go on to what happens when a fracking company comes into your district, because this, believe it or not, might be very useful to people who want to be active politically in that field. There are sort of three groups, quite distinct groups involved in any fight against the frackers. First of all, there are people who camp just outside the gates of the fracking field. They will stay there. In Manchester, they stayed there all the way from about November, when the drilling started, to fairly recently, about April, when the hole was finished and iGas moved on. The politics of the campus tend to be very libertarian. I mean, to tell you the truth, I mean, we've stood in a line facing the police together, but I can't say I've discussed their politics much, but I would say that they're on the whole libertarian. Some of them don't even believe in climate change. That's a discussion that we're still having with them. Then a second group of people will be the socialists. And there is some discussion between the campers and the socialists, because I think the campers think that the background, the local campaign needs to be to support the campers and the camp and the resistance there. Whereas I think those of us who took up the cudgels on behalf of the anti-fracking campaign believe that it's much more spreading the political message about fracking into the local population. And so I think they are quite distinct groups, and they are both necessary. The campers are always there. They're extremely brave, but they need the activity of socialists like us to support, not only support them, but to also to gather in the third group, which are the local population, people who have houses within range of the well. And of course, the first thing that we did, as soon as we heard that iGas was coming, was we took a fairly large housing estate, and we made sure a leaflet went through every door, calling a meeting, drawing in some of the householders into activity. And they are very important, of course, because 2 minutes, right, okay. They're very important because they're the people that will be at the front of the effects once they start fracking. So we drew them into the activity, and most of that consists of going down every morning, standing in front of the lorries as they try to arrive, preventing any fast movement. In other words, at the first day, it was all shove and push and stand still for as long as you can. Afterwards, the police and the camp and the resistance movement came to an understanding that if you stopped walking, you got arrested. So it was a matter of how slowly can you walk. And believe me, you can walk very, very slowly, can't you? And I think that in the end, it's because fracking is so universal, because it's quite easy to draw in people, and what we found was that people were outraged that they hadn't been told about it. You know, the local householders. And that's what kept them going. And of course, their support for the camp was extremely important. And of course, in the course of these discussions, we showed them films, discussed what the thing was about, pointed out the dangers, etc., etc. So that there is quite a lot of activity around the thing. At the moment, in our last meeting of the Fracking Greater Manchester group, we thought of trying to attack Centrica and British Gas who have declared themselves very much in favour of fracking and are building some kind of organisation towards this. And so one of the things that isn't happening, and there are about 180 small groups resisting fracking wherever it appears, is to try and link up these groups, try to get them round one single campaign to help to sort of pull together. And I think that's one of the things that I'd like feedback on in the discussion here. I think I'm going to have to wind up, but I'm hoping that Steve will fill the little holes I've left.
Should we just make a test on the sounder?
Yeah. So,
It still looks very silent.
yeah. Really.
No, sound.
Something.
I guess I can try playing the sound from my computer. It'll be pretty quiet, but
Turn it up to full volume.
yeah, it was working in the last session, which is really weird.
Do you see
Yeah.
any wires?
Is it on the actual thing on YouTube?
Hmm?
Is
That's
that,
what I'm thinking.
if you go on a little speaker on YouTube?
It's just sometimes YouTube's not very good.